Okay, so we're going to take a quick look at the triangular prism, the surface area of it. And so one of the things that we used to really help us with the rectangular prism that isn't going to be quite as much of a help is that it had all sorts of parallel sides. So we only had to do a few calculations. Now, because this is a prism, it has two parallel bases, right? Take a second and identify what are the parallel bases. Well, it's a triangular prism, right? So that the parallel bases have to be triangles. So face A and face E are triangles, and they are going to be congruent to each other, right? So now we have a nice neat trick here that because half of base times height is half times 12 times 5, but we have two of them, right? So we could either say half times 12 is 6 times 5 is 30 square inches, and then we have to double it again. Or you could, from the get-go, when you're doing a triangular prism, just say, well, let's just treat it like a rectangle with a base of 5 and a height of 12. Now, the sad thing is that because if we've got different unless we've got like an equilateral triangle, an isosceles triangle, we're not going to have three of the same rectangles. All of our rectangles are going to be different. So we just have to be super careful when we're sort of unwrapping it to figure out what are the different areas. And that's why drawing a net can be so helpful. Okay, so let's take a quick look at face B. Face B is 10 inches times 5 inches. And this is going to consistently be true. These all have one dimension that's the same. 10 by 5, 10 by 12, 10 by 13. Okay, and that's slightly different than the other problem that we might have seen with the rectangular prisms, because those all had different measures sometimes. But here we're always going to have them have one measurement the same, because that would be the height of the figure, the height of the prism. So 5 times 10 is going to be 50. Okay, for face C, 10 times 12 is going to be 120 square inches. For phase D, 10 times 13 is going to be 130 square inches. And then what we have to just do is make sure that we have we start with our 60 for the two triangles, and then we move on to our 50 for face B. And I think this should have pluses instead of equalses. 60 plus 50. I don't know if your book is not messed up, but mine is. Plus 120. And then plus 130. And then we add those all up. And our last digit is going to be 0. 120 and 130 is 250. 250 and 50 is 300. And it's going to be 360 square inches. Okay? So the most important thing is that if we're doing a triangular prism, that we draw our net correctly. So I want to just take a moment and quickly practice drawing a net. I'm looking back in your book at page 599, number 5, and we're just going to draw a super quick net for this guy. Now this one actually looks like a beautiful equilateral triangle, but we should just make sure that if we have different measurements, that we're able to successfully draw a net, right? So we've got our rectangle, we've got our triangles, and then we've got 3 triangles. Now, the length of this side of the triangle is going to correspond with the width of that rectangle. The length of, I got to draw this triangle. The length of this far side of the triangle is going to correspond to the width of that rectangle. And then they're all, as I said before, going to have the same length. Okay, so hopefully you'll be very successful today.